Bright Duty. Every student matters.
So let us move on to the first passage. This is a poem that we are going to read, Mother Son, written by Langston Hughes. Now this is a very famous poem which is written from a mother to her son. Let us read this poem now. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor. Bare. But all the time it has been, this is, I have, or I is, this can be used in any context. So I plus either is or has, anything can be used on the basis of what is written in the poem. So he says that all the time I have been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps cause you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now, for it is still going, honey. It is still climbing, and life for me and been no crystal stair. So what did we do? We just skimmed through the poem. I just read this poem for you without explaining anything. Now, very important thing, whenever you get a comprehension passage or a poem, it is not important for you to understand every word and every line. What is important for you is to understand the overview of the entire poem, what moral or what facts is the poem or the passage trying to bring forth, so that you are able to, attempt the questions basically. Now let us go through the poem again. Well, son, I'll tell you. So we know that this poem is written by a mother to her son. So she says that life for me and we know crystal stair. Crystal stair, this is something we all know. What is a stair? A staircase. We always climb. Every day for us is climbing on a new stair. That takes us further, that takes us ahead in our life. So the mother says that for me, when I was moving ahead in my life was not very good, very comfortable, loving, It was full of ups and downs. How do we know it was full of ups and downs? Because she herself has written it had tacks and splinters and boards torn up. So when I was walking on the path, there were a lot of splinters that hurt me. There were boards that were torn up. I had to at times walk on a floor which had no carpet on it. A floor which is very rough with carpet laid on it makes it comfortable for you to walk on. But without the carpet, it is very difficult and very hard and very rough. So here again, through this line also, she talks about roughness, the problems, the obstacles that she faced in her lives to move on. So she's trying to tell her son about all the problems and all the difficulties that she's faced in her life to move ahead. She further continues that all the time I have been climbing on. Despite the problems that I came across, I never stopped. I continued to move ahead in life. I continued to move up on those stairs and reaching landings and turning corners. So whenever I would move ahead, there were a few places I would reach. There were a few circumstances I would lead myself into. At times, I would go into the dark where there was no light. So at times, my life would be full of darkness with no hope, no positivity left in it. But I never gave up. So she says that, boy, don't you turn back. So she's trying to impart the same teaching to her son, that you also will come across such problems and difficulties in your life. And when something like this happens, you are not supposed to look back. You are not supposed to give up in your life. Don't you sit down on the steps. You don't have to move back when you come across a problem. You have to move forward. You will have to, come over that problem, and only then you'd be able to get success. Because you find it's kind of hard, don't you fall now. So she says that at that time when you will be faced with a difficulty, it will be very hard for you to move on. You would think it is not possible for you to move ahead in life, but you cannot fall. You cannot give up. You cannot take a U-turn from there. For it is still going. For the life is still going. And for you to go ahead with the life, you have to face and bear all its problems. Your stairs are still climbing. So there are a lot of stairs that you will have to climb on each day to keep your life ahead. And life for me and with no crystal stairs. She again tells her son that it is not only you who is going to face such problems and difficulties in life. For me also, life was never that easy and fair and without any problems. Okay, so it was easy enough for us to understand the poem. Now let us move on to the discussion of the questions. So what is the mother telling her son in the poem? So the mother is telling her son about the problems that she has faced in her life, and the fact that life is not very fair and very smooth, journey. What are the struggles that the mother has seen in life? So the mother has seen a lot of struggles in her life. We have read that at times she had to move, or she had to walk on a path which was bare, which was very rough, and she was headed into complete darkness. She could not see any hope, any positivity in life, but she never gave up. Explain. Don't you fall now, for it is still going, honey. It is still climbing, and life for me and been no crystal stair. So why does she say that? I explained this to you already. She is encouraging and motivating her son to never give up in life. She's telling her son that when you come across any difficulties in your life, you do not have to give up. For your life is still continuing. There are new stairs that are being added to your life, and you have to continue to climb them, and you have to continue to overcome the difficulties in your life. Because for me also, life was not crystal stair. It was not that easy. It was not that fair. What does the mother mean by "and places with no carpet on the floor bare"? So places with no carpet on the floor bare only represent harshness, the difficulties that she had went through in her life, where she had to walk on that path which was very, very difficult, which was very hurting, but she did not stop. What becomes harder if one chooses to sit down? What is hard? It is hard to move ahead in life. If at one point of time you give up in your life, you would never be able to gain that spirit, to gain that motivation back, and you will always remain defeated in your life. Explain the significance of crystal stair. So as I have again told you, crystal stair, the mother used this expression crystal stair to emphasize on the fact that for her too, life was never very fair. It was never smooth. It was never just. Rather, it was full of problems and difficulties. Now, what is the lesson that the mother is trying to teach her son? Again, we have discussed that when I was explaining to you the poem. The lesson that the mother is trying to explain to her son is that one should never give up in life. Life will no doubt be full of difficulties and problems, but one has to continue to move on, one has to continue to climb that stair, one has to continue to overcome all the obstacles in life. How does the significance of moving on in life in the face of setbacks come across? Setbacks means problems. So the question says that how important it is to continue to move on in life despite the problems that you face. So it is certainly very important because it is under these circumstances only that one gets the strength. It is under these circumstances only that one gets a better understanding of oneself and decides what choices should be made. So the wisdom to choose the correct thing falls in one person under difficult circumstances. Next question says, choose the word that can replace the highlighted word more appropriately. So this is a vocabulary based task. So the first one, the city was simmering with discontent for decades. So the meaning discontent, or the other word that we can choose for discontent, is dissatisfaction. The boys found the truck in a most mangled condition. Mangled condition means damaged. So mangled means damage. The next question, the next part of this question is, the severity of the damage was hard to fathom at very distance. Fathom is something fathomless we use for something which is deep. Fathom, which is on the top, which is, very easy to understand. So that is fathom. He provided vague answers to the questions the detective asked. Now we all know vague is quite simple. So vague is unclear answers. There was no end to the havoc that the floods have wreaked on the district. Havoc means destruction. So there was no end to all the destruction that took place because of the floods in that district. So with this, my dear students, we went through the first poem which is given in your book, Mother to Son. This ways I'm going to discuss the other 4 passages given to you as well. And I hope you've understood the scheme, understood the technique of answering and attempting your section 2.